Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar, your host, and this is my first conversation from my former hometown, that is Hyderabad. As you all know, I'm from Hyderabad, India, and now I've been living in the US. In fact, I have lived in Hyderabad only 16 years of my life, and I have lived in Delaware for now over 18 years. So, Newark, Delaware is now my hometown. So, so for my former hometown, I'm quite delighted. I have seen parts of Hyderabad which are old. Not much has really changed in that part of Hyderabad. But today, I'm going to talk to you about Donald Trump's win in the Iowa caucuses. And also the political storm towards which America is heading. So I'm going to try and keep this brief and show you some numbers and give you a hint of what is to come in the near political future. I expect that we're going to see a lot of controversies in the next few months until November, and those problems could in many ways undermine America's democracy and America's image abroad. I hope none of that happens and we have fair and free elections to the satisfaction of all citizens. Since 2000, every election in the United States legitimacy has been contested, unfortunately, and so we have not even had a peaceful transfer of power the last time. So I'm hoping that things go well going forward. So before I actually jump into the numbers and results in the Iowa caucuses and what it means, please subscribe to Khanversation, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share it with the rest of your socio-political network. And also for those of you who can, please support Khanversations by becoming a member of Khanversations. So this is the results of the Iowa caucuses. At the time I took the screenshot, about 89% of the polls were called, but most networks had already declared Trump as winning the Iowa caucuses and DeSantis also as second. So number one, Trump won. So we are no more in the polls. We are now in real numbers. So he has won Iowa caucuses, and he has won it with a historical margin. Never before in the Republican caucus was there such a huge margin. I think George Herbert Bush had won with about 13% margin. As you can see, Trump beat DeSantis by nearly 30 percentage points. He has so far got 18 of the 30 delegates that have been declared. There are 40 delegates from Iowa. I don't know how the other 10 are going to break. And then Haley came third, and DeSantis beat Haley by a very few votes, but 2 percentage points. And this is very critical because the entire Republican primary has been about number two and not number one, because as you all know, Trump was leading heavily in the national polls. So if you look at it, on January 15, the national polls shows Trump garnering 63% of the Republican votes, and then Haley second and DeSantis third, and they were both around 16, 17%. Vivek Ramaswamy is in single digits, around 6, 7%, and he's not improved, even though he has made a lot of noise and garnered a lot of attention and raised a lot of cultural and political issues. But his, shall we say, performance has remained stable even after Chris Christie dropping out. He did not take a spike. Haley has benefited more from Chris Christie's departure. So if you look at the Iowa Republican caucus predictions before the election, so if you look at all the averages, it was suggesting that Trump was number one, getting 52.5% of the vote, and the outcome in reality is also exactly roughly close to that. Trump won it by about 51, 52%. And getting 51 to 52% was critical from a symbolic perspective, because if Trump had got 48% of the vote, then people have said that a majority of Republicans in Iowa have rejected Trump. And so him winning this with all the scandals surrounding his candidacy, with all the news about January 6th and all the cases he's fighting in the courts, it's amazing how loyal his supporters are. These are largely evangelical voters, and Iowa is a very evangelical state. But the forecast said Haley was predictions, or the polls were saying that Haley would come second, leading nearly by 3 points to DeSantis. But as you can see in the actual results, DeSantis basically reversed it by 5 percentage points. He beat Haley by 2% point. I don't know how that's going to impact the New Hampshire, where um, Haley is within single digits of Donald Trump. That is going to be critical. If Haley comes close to beating Trump or beats Trump, then she's a serious candidate. But if she loses New Hampshire by a margin to Donald Trump, then I think it's over for her. And so now it will be just straight up Donald Trump all the way down, because South Carolina is onwards, it's all red and Trump territory. But I want to show you a very interesting poll. So when supporters in the Iowa caucuses were asked, if Donald Trump is the Republican nominee in the general elections in November, would you vote for him? Would you vote for Joe Biden? Would you vote for an independent candidate, Robert Kennedy Jr., or vote for some other candidate? So now look at this. Of overall all Republican caucus goers, 71% said they would vote for Trump if he was the nominee. These are Republicans overall, okay? But among Haley's supporters, 43% of them said they would vote for Joe Biden. So the support that Haley got in Iowa is from Democrats who changed their party and registered as Republicans to vote in the Iowa caucuses. And in spite of that, Nikki Haley finished third. So in that sense, you could argue that DeSantis has really performed very well in Iowa, because in spite of defection of Democrats, to vote for Haley, he was able to beat her. So basically, it tells you that Haley does not have as much support in the Republican Party as people were making her out to be, that she was well, she's not moderate, she's just as hawkish, but an alternative to Donald Trump. So what next? Next would be to take a look at the New Hampshire Republican primaries, which is a week from now. And the polls suggest that Donald Trump is at 43.5% and Nikki Haley at 29.3%. So the margin is just about 14%. And if she really performs better, given that Chris Christie was at 11.3% in number. So if Chris Christie's supporters break in her direction, because if you remember, Chris Christie was the most anti-Trump candidate in this entire Republican primary until he dropped out. So assuming the people who supported Chris Christie were anti-Trump, then they would probably vote for Haley or DeSantis and not for Trump. So the assumption was that if you add 29.3 of Haley and 11.3 of Chris Christie, that is 40.6. So Haley is like within touching distance of beating Trump. Even if she doesn't beat Trump, she comes very close. It would do a huge dent to Trump's image. And tremendous for her, and she would be able to raise a lot of money from a rich billionaire Republican class who don't want Trump as president. So this New Hampshire primary is really, really critical for both Trump and Haley, but DeSantis too. So will he be able to take the Iowa momentum into New Hampshire? Let's see what happens next week. And Ramaswamy, I don't know, man. He's making an impact. Hopefully, he's young and he's in his late 30s, and hopefully he will be a serious Republican candidate. But I don't know if you remember a couple of decades, or not a decade, maybe 10 years ago, Bobby Jindal, the Louisiana governor, was the prototype of Vivek Ramaswamy. He made lots of noises. He even gave the Republican response to one of Obama's State of the Union addresses, I think. And so he was really tipped as going to be going somewhere, and then suddenly he became a political nobody. So I don't know, but let's hope that Vivek Ramaswamy hangs in there. He brings a lot of interesting perspectives to the debates. I don't fully agree with nearly everything that he has to say, except a couple of things on foreign policy. But other than that, I think the race is between Trump and Haley, and this particular coming primary is going to decide. So what are the political storms that we are heading towards? So this is what is happening. If Trump wins New Hampshire and continues to win and becomes very apparent that he's going to be a Republican nominee by landslide, he's going to easily win it, and that he has a lot of support. And then now if courts make him ineligible, that if he's indicted on one of the cases and the decisions are made against his position, that presidents can be held accountable, that he did trigger an insurrection and basically was responsible for it. And so comes July, August, June, July, August, this summer, he's arrested and he goes to jail. And he is the leading Republican candidate, or by then he would have already become the Republican nominee. So it will appear as if Joe Biden, who is trailing him in polls, is basically trying to win by using courts. So that is going to throw a real strong wrench into American democracy. I don't know what these loyal supporters of the Republican Trump going to do about it. People say this jokingly, that but it's a very serious matter. They have all the guns. So it doesn't look good, either Nikki Haley beats him outright, and so and then Trump goes to prison, so it doesn't matter. But if Trump wins the primary and then he's disallowed because of some court action or some interpretation of the 14, some constitutional amendment and so on and so forth, then we are going to have in big trouble. And I suspect that from then on, it would be very difficult for the American democracy to recover in a long time, because already half of the country feels that the election was stolen from Donald Trump in 2020. And if it is now stolen again, if he's not given the opportunity to contest, then it's going to be the ideal situation would be that Democrats let him run and they beat him fair and square at the elections, at the polls once again. So we will continue to keep an eye on US elections. And I have to now log off because I have to prepare for the several talks that I'm going to be giving here in my hometown. And for those of you who are in Hyderabad, I'm going to be giving a public lecture on the geopolitics of the Middle East in a wonderful forum called La Makan. So please, I will post the address in the community section of the channel. It's going to be on Sunday in the afternoon. So please come and say hello and we can chat, and please attend the talk. It should be interesting face to face. So until then, take care. This is Muqtedar Khan, your host. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, press the bell icon, and also share this with your social political network. Until next time, I'm Muqtedar Khan from my hometown, my former hometown, Hyderabad.